why should I submit a response for a request for information or even a forecast if I'm not even sure that that opportunity is going to be released as a solicitation? That's the question I got from one of the companies that I work with. And the simple answer is RFIs and forecasts are the only way that you can develop early relationship with government contracting buyers before your competitors do. And it's the only way, or one of the best ways actually, to establish yourself and build a strong relationship with a government buyer. But what are RFIs anyways? And are they more than just request for information? For most government agencies, they release something called sources sought or request for information, which is a pre-solicitation tool that the government agencies use to gather intelligence or market research before they release something out as a solicitation. But these are more than just questionnaires or market research. Each RFI is a strategic way, an opportunity for you to showcase your capabilities to the government agency or the government buyer. You want to demonstrate your capabilities and have an influence to shape up the opportunity before it becomes a solicitation. So what you want to do is you want to provide your kind of expertise and use that to shape the opportunity. For example, you could tell the agency, I know that in the past you used this approach, but I highly recommend that you go with that approach. It's better for X, Y, and Z. And that's the approach that you specialize in. For example, I'm just trying to give you an example of how you would practically shape up an opportunity. There was actually a research by the Grant Management Association that contractors who consistently responded to RFIs built significant visibility and established trust with the procurement official, positioning themselves as go-to partner long before the competition begins. We are not competing with anyone when we are responding to sources sought RFIs or when we are reaching out at the forecast stage. It's much more casual and friendly conversation even when you get on a call with them, and you are establishing yourself as a go-to partner for whichever niche that you are in. The same way with RFIs, there's forecast. Every government agency is required by law to submit a forecast report for the upcoming year. You can utilize that information, or even the future, even more than a year. You could utilize that information to reach out to these agencies, discuss the contract with them, discuss their needs, and add it to your pipeline so you are ready. So for example, if you see a forecast for a contract that's relevant to what you work in, you could start the conversation, talk to them. If it's a recompete, meaning that there was an incumbent, you could ask about the incumbent. You could ask about what they like, what they don't like. You could ask about what exactly they want. Now, when the opportunity is released, you've had a year to prepare for it. You have engaged with the agency. They know you. They know your business. They know what you can offer. So engaging as early as possible has significant advantage to your business. It's not quantifiable, but it's really worth the effort. But not every RFI is important to your business. And that's why I like to put it in 3 different buckets. So we have low impact, medium impact, highest impact. And based on how relevant the opportunity is, we're going to change our approach. So if it's something of high importance and high relevance to our business, we want to go with the strategic relationship building. We want to put a lot of effort, showcase innovation, coupled with proactive follow-up meetings. We're going to try and get on meetings. We're going to try and reach out. We're going to try and put a lot of efforts into our response. Now, if it's something that's not very relevant to our business, but maybe 1 or 2 points we could fulfill, then that would fall into the generic submission where you just answer the questions they have and you just leave it at that. That usually doesn't lead to follow-ups, but if they follow up with you, then you would get on a call and see how you could help them. And in the middle, it would be like with medium impact where you can fulfill a good part of it, but it's not a top priority in your sales pipeline. These 3 buckets help you kind of focus your effort and energy because each one of these will take effort. So if you see that an opportunity is not as significant, you could just respond to it with generic response. But if it's important, then we're going to put a lot more efforts into outreach, reaching out to government buyers, developing a strategic kind of relationship and developing a strong response. Again, we touched on the point of why. We want to open up the door early and we want to have a consistent engagement with the agency before, during, and after the RFI is released, because eventually it will become a solicitation. We have to bid on it. And we want to align ourselves with the government needs, so we are the top business that could potentially land this contract. What a lot of businesses I see they kind of get wrong with RFIs, sources sought, forecast, is they completely ignore them. And that's a mistake by itself. It's a huge mistake. So first, the biggest mistake that we want to fix is we actually want to reach out when we see a forecast that's relevant, or when we see a sources sought that's relevant, we want to submit a response for it. It's not just paperwork. We want to put something that represents the quality of the work that we do. So we have to put in actionable insights. We have to put in a lot of work and effort into submitting a response, even though it doesn't mean automatically that we are bidding. It just means that we are getting into a relationship with one of our customers. And it's a process. It's not a job application where you just apply and that's it. It's a process. We're talking to them. We're engaging with them. We are learning about their needs. And finally, after you submit, a lot of businesses, they just leave it at that. You should have it in your CRM that we have submitted a request for information or a response to a sources sought, or we reach out for a forecast. We need to follow up. We need to see if they received our response. If they didn't get back to you, you have to reach out, ask for what they thought about it. The next step, you could schedule a meeting, get more information. It's a great way for you to get to meet your buyer or meet your customer. So make sure, I would say the highlight of this is make sure you don't ignore forecast and you don't ignore request for information / sources sought. Now, how do you do this? Like, what's an actionable way of adding this into your daily kind of practice? What I like to do, and it's very simple, is I like to filter for sources sought always. And here I'm searching for federal on SamSearch. You could utilize whatever software you use. I like to filter for sources sought. And then usually what I would do is either search by my NAICS code or filter by, or I could just search. For example, let's take the example of sign language. And I see here that there's a sources sought that was released 10 days ago. And the USCIC, they're seeking industry input for sign language interpretation services. This is a great opportunity for me to reach out and provide a response for this one. So I could take it from here, add it to my project management software, whichever one you use. I use the journey on SamSearch. I'm going to have a look at the document here of what exactly they want. I could just view it in here and get an information about the scope, the details, the statement of work. And from there, I could just easily submit a response. Obviously, you could utilize, it's much easier now to utilize software to help you submit a response. For example, we could here utilize the proposal feature to submit kind of a draft, and then we could work on it, give it a personal input. That's the simplest way of actually finding sources sought. Now, let's say we want to find forecast. That one is a bit more difficult if you don't want to do it through a software, but if you have a software like this, it should be very straightforward. And I'm just here typed sign language. I want to fill up my pipeline for the next year because government contracting, as we all know, is not an instant process. Usually it involves a lot of years. We have businesses, they have their pipelines filled up for the next 3-4 years. And the way to do that is by actually engaging in forecast. Forecast allow you to see what your buyer wants in the future. For example, this one is for Q4 2025. So now it's kind of in the past. So we don't care much about this one, but it'd be nice to see if it actually became a contract. And here we could see, we get an idea and see where did this actually go. So you could search in your federal search for Department of Homeland Security if they have any sign language interpretation services, or you could reach out to them and ask them, which you can just get their information here and email them. The agency, you could reach out to them if this became an actual contract or not. But if we are trying to go for the future, so this one is in Q2 2026, this one is also a forecast for specialized American Sign Language and Communication Access Services to support cybersecurity infrastructure agency. This would be a great opportunity for me. I here have the estimated value. It's $500,000 to $1 million. It's in Q2 of 2026, and it's a recompete, meaning that there was an incumbent, and now they're opening up the competition again. So this is a great way for me to reach out, ask more details about this, ask about the incumbent, and add this to my pipeline. So when it drops as a sources sought or when it becomes a solicitation, I am ready and prepared and ahead of all the competition. That's why a lot of businesses, when I talk to them, they said, how am I supposed to submit a solicitation, get my stuff ready in 5 days? They didn't know that before that there was a forecast. They didn't know before that it was sources sought, pre-solicitation. Then it became a solicitation. By the time it's solicitation, a lot of businesses are in the competition. And in most cases, it's a done deal. So getting early is the way to actually land these contracts. Another one, this one is, for example, the Defense Information System Agency. This one is a larger estimated value, $10 to $50 million. And it's also in Q2 of 2026. There's a set aside for 8A and it's a recompete. Now my pipeline for Q2 of 2026 is filled up with two important contracts. Mind you, these are large contracts. So actually preparing for this, reaching out, doing the outreach, engaging with the agency is valuable because one of these contracts can anchor our revenue for the whole year and depend on your business, obviously. And even if you, let's say, for example, you don't have a set aside, you can start looking up partners that have that set aside that would be a good fit for you. I could just go into partnerships here, look for businesses that are, for example, 8A, and have the NAICS code for translation and interpretation, which is the one for sign language. We can then look at these contractors, see which one would be a good fit. So getting early gets you ready because if you don't have, for example, the 8A set aside, you can pitch this opportunity to this business, for example, and say, hey, we can partner up on this. And you were able to prepare and get ready for this before 9 months before it even released as a solicitation. My point with all of this is forecast and sources sought / request for information, RFIs, are the way to actually establish relationships, are the way to actually win government contracts. If you ask any successful government contractor, they definitely submit responses to requests for information, or they have established relationships with the agencies. And the way they do that is by tracking forecast, tracking requests for information, tracking sources sought. All of these things, although you don't see tangible results right away, you are building your pipeline for the next year. You're getting ready. So an opportunity that's 10 or 5 million next year, you are most prepared more than any of the competition. I hope this was helpful. If you'd like to get access to this software, I'll leave a link in the comments and description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.